What's up, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at another operating system, and this one came from Andrew. So thank you, Andrew, for making this suggested video. I can't always do suggestions, but at this one I thought looked rather interesting, so I really appreciate that suggestion. If something sounds really interesting to me, of course I'm gonna do something with it. And Andrew left a great comment on TENS, which is an operating system actually developed by the Air Force Research Laboratory. And unfortunately, this operating system is no longer being maintained. So that's the unfortunate fact about this. So you can't find one newer than 2021. Maybe someone, I don't think it's open source, so maybe no one will be able to pick it up. But it is a publicly available operating system, of course. Now, it was developed for the Department of Defense, so it is basically the entire purpose of this is a trusted end node system. So what that means is you can turn any computer. The idea behind it was to allow employees to access secure environments remotely from their computer, and in a way that provides a read-only environment that is bootable by either a USB stick or even a DVD. So you can actually burn a DVD of this and boot it right up. It's a Linux operating system, and it is read-only, as mentioned. It also has its own encryption wizard, which I thought was rather interesting, something written in Java. Now, one thing is, the actual encryption wizard is still being maintained from what I read, so that's something you could download on your own Linux operating system if you so choose. It takes a few minutes to load up. Now, of course, you're going to first want to agree and continue for the agreement here. So we'll go ahead and hit that, and if you don't agree to it, of course, it's not going to load for you. But this is what you'll see, and as you note, it says no smart card detected. So some of this is oriented with smart card reader for different types of access systems in the government. I've never worked for the government, so I can't really speak from firsthand experience, but I still thought it was a interesting sounding operating system. So I appreciate Andrew leaving that comment on trying this out on video. And so wanted to show it load up, so I decided to record it on my camera. You can even check out the user guide here, so we can enlarge that first. So as you can see, Air Force Research Laboratory, Trusted End Node Security, and that's what TENS itself stands for, obviously. Now, this version of the guide is from 2020. I found a version 3. You can, and I'll leave some links to where you can download it. Now, of course, this is the public version, so anyone can use this. Completely legal to try it out. It's a public Linux operating system that you can try out. You can boot up. It doesn't mount your hard drive or anything. It simply provides a live Linux environment with various options on the desktop, and we can also take a look. It even has a start menu. So for those coming from Windows, they might not be as lost. So we can take a look at some of the applications here. We have the Encryption Wizard, which we'll take a look at in a moment. Secure Email, which looks like it's a Thunderbird client. Now you can even see right here, you can enter this to use as a smart card, and apparently from what I've read about this operating system, the Department of Defense actually had their own certificates for usage and access the remote access securely. So you can read through this, and a lot of this is just basic Linux stuff, so nothing new for a lot of you. But I thought I'd browse through it because it really did sound interesting. When I saw the comment, I wasn't even familiar with it. So I actually had to look it up, find out what it was, and decided to download it and boot it up. So we're trying it out on this ThinkPad right now. It's actually a ThinkPad I'm putting together for someone that actually follows the channel. So I want to send my appreciation to them. So this is a little preview of that. And as you can see, The requirements: 64-bit x86 processor. You just need 1.5 gigabytes of RAM, or 2.0 for the deluxe. And the main difference with the deluxe, this is actually the public deluxe. The main difference from my understanding is that it comes with LibreOffice. So you have LibreOffice, of course. Now we're running 16 gigabytes of RAM on this one, so there's going to be no problem using it. We're going to exit out that. We've all seen LibreOffice. Now with multimedia, you have a media player, the documentation, you have a README, you have release notes, and a user's guide. Let's go ahead and open that. And so if you go through connectivity, you have a Citrix receiver preferences. You have instant messaging, which looks like it's a Pigeon client. Now I remember using Pigeon. I've used Pigeon a lot. I actually used to use it for various different chat clients. So you can actually add AIM, which was popular. You have ICQ, of course. Those who've been around know about that. And XMPP. And it also allows you to use different plugins, which is cool about Pigeon as well. So you can actually use something called Off the Record. And I'm just citing some of my previous usage of it. And that would allow you to add end-to-end encryption to various types of network communications. Now to go further down, of course, they have Minicom. They have ping utility, which is rather simple. You can ping a simple website here. If you hit that, we can ping something, but I do believe it might reveal the IP address, so I'm not going to do that at the moment. And we have check for OpenDNS. So it also has some DNS options here. So you can check for OpenDNS with this, and you can also enable DNS crypt right here. So encrypted DNS is an option. As we know, with different networks that you may be using, someone can proxy your DNS requests. They can actually redirect you to another server if you're not encrypting your DNS requests. So that's another concern. Now, if you're using something like Tor, they're handling the DNS through the exit node. So that's technically not something that anyone on your local network or even your ISP can proxy. So if you're actually using Tor properly and you have it proxying your DNS through Tor, you shouldn't have to worry about those types of attacks, at least locally. Now, of course, on the exit node itself, there's always that possibility. But let's go ahead and check out the main feature. So, as mentioned, this is an operating system that was originally developed by the Air Force Research Laboratory for the Department of Defense. It was recommended by the NSA and various other government institutions for employees to use their computer in a more secure way. So if they weren't sure about the computer you were using, they might request you use something like TENS, the Trusted End Known Security. And we can take a look now at the Encryption Wizard. May as well check that out, because that's the main attraction. And with the Encryption Wizard, is actually quite nice. I actually like it. It's written in Java. We could go ahead and copy something. We can drag this in here. Now, anything you want to encrypt in the Encryption Wizard, you simply drag it here. Then you can hit Encrypt. And when you do that, you enter your passphrase here. And you can also select various different options here. Certificate, generate a password as well. You have that as an option too. Now remember, I mentioned that this is actually still maintained in some form. So you can actually download this Encryption Wizard, and I'm going to leave links to some of these things so you can take a look at them on your own. This is TENS Deluxe 3.0.3.1. So it's a public version. There's also a professional version, which I believe is just an internal government thing. But this is public for everyone to try out. Now, unfortunately, as mentioned, it's just not being maintained anymore, but it's still something cool to check out. And the concept behind it is great. So similar to like how Tails just runs off the RAM. Now you can even burn this to a DVD, a non-rewritable DVD. You could have it booting off that DVD as well and just simply run it in the RAM naturally. That's how it just runs. That's the only option for it, as far as I know. So you have those options to create password. Here you go, ABC123, horrible password for you. Never use that. And then We can go ahead and just hit add. Then we can go to next. We can even put in a little bit of metadata if we so choose. We want to add a title to it. We want to add an author. We'll go ahead and hit OK. Do you want to keep the files? We'll go ahead and keep them, even though it's read-only, which means if I make changes to this, it's not going to change itself. And that's part of the security behind it, is the fact that it's only readable. It's not writable. I can't make changes to this operating system by, say, writing files to the disk. It's going to be the same fresh start every time I boot it. So really cool. Thought it was something worth checking out. So thank you, Andrew, for the suggestion. I really appreciate this suggestion because I think it's a really cool operating system, and I'm glad to have learned about it. And maybe we'll see something else come out in the future in an open source way. Of course, we have Tails and other operating systems you can run live in a way like this. This one was directed, of course, for government usage, but as mentioned, completely public. But, you know, it's interesting to try these things out, explore these operating systems, I think. As long as you're doing it in a completely legal fashion, of course. So a lot of this is just standard Linux stuff in the how to use guide. But yeah, that's it. You can check it out for yourself, and I'll leave the links to that. You can take a look at the various options here, and you have the utilities I shared. So a lot of standard Linux utilities, a lot of standard stuff outside the Encryption Wizard, which is pretty cool, actually. And then you can archive that, and you can share it. So a lot of different options here. Let's take a look at the About. So as you can see, its homepage was a .mil website. But as mentioned, this is a public project. This is something anyone can try out. There's a public version, and that's what we're looking at. So that's TENS. Hope you found it interesting, as I did. I think it's an interesting operating system. You know, maybe in the future we'll look at it again. Maybe we'll look at that Encryption Wizard once again. But I just want to do a basic introduction of what is TENS, what it was, and what it offered, and what made it secure. Another tip is not to run it as a virtual machine. For, you know, the best possible security, you're going to want to run it in a live read-only form as it was always intended. So that's just a small tip there. Even Cube's documentation mentions to use Tails whenever forensics is truly an issue. So hope you found this video interesting. I liked exploring it, so thank you to Andrew who made the suggestion. And anyone who wants to try it out, I'll leave the links below. Make sure to share the video, like, and subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think this could be useful to you? Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll be back later with more on how to protect your security and privacy.